Okay, at 7:03, I'll call the meeting to order. We are recording, correct, Paul?
We are, yes.
Okay, this is a meeting of the Town of Norton Zoning Board of Appeals. 7:03, we're getting started. We have an agenda that contains 2 hearing items and then a couple of business items. The first item is marked for 7 o'clock, 20 Eisenhower Drive, the application appeal of building inspector's decision concerning 20 Eisenhower Drive. The applicant or appellant is Michael Basalia, 22 Eisenhower Drive. The owner of the property next door, Sandra and Anthony Buccieri, 20 Eisenhower Drive. This was continued from our last meeting, and I see the Buccieris are with us. Thank you. This was continued from our last meeting. Is there a motion to take this from the table to resume?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to take the appeal of the building inspector's decision regarding 20 Eisenhower Drive from the table.
Dave, I caught that, but you're very muffled for some reason. I don't know if your microphone is covered with papers or slime or something else, but
it's interesting. That's the second time I've heard that, and I don't know what the answer is.
okay. Well, we'll just speak up and raise your hand if you're trying to speak up and we're not hearing you. You're very faint, and you're. It sounds like there's something covering the mic. I don't know if something on your system. Okay.
I'm going to try something. I'll be right back.
Uh-oh, he's gone.
He's gonna come right back, but in the meantime, I'll second his motion. It's Jim, but
Okay, but we got to wait till he's here.
I'll
Dave, your name is still up on the board, but no picture, and it. Well, you were muted.
I can hear you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, it's still the same audio quality, but let's go forward. Just try to speak up, and we'll try to give you the room to talk when you are talking.
Okay, thank you.
But we don't have your picture, so we need your picture, your camera back.
Here we go.
There you are. Okay, let's continue now. You're in favor of the motion to continue this hearing, Mr. Wren?
Yes, I am.
And Mr. Tenori?
yes.
And Mr. Noel, yes, I vote as well. All right, thank you for coming back to us, to the Buccieris. We received a couple of emails in the matter in the interim. The applicant, the Basalias, wrote to us on January 10th. We would like to revoke our ZBA application regarding 20 Eisenhower Drive. Please consider this our formal notification. That is an email from Carrie Basalia. We informed the parties that we have to take that up and vote to accept or not to accept the withdrawal. I consulted counsel very briefly. She's been available by email to me only for the last couple of weeks, unfortunately. Well, it's not her fault, it's my fault as well. But basically, members, as I understand it, we take a vote to accept the withdrawal or not to accept the withdrawal. We have apparently the option to continue on and deem the building inspector's decision overturned. Council said we have that option, or we can accept the withdrawal. Either way, I'll just speak for a moment, then ask the other members to speak. I think the Buccieris have an issue that they should resolve at some point, whether at our behest now or later, simply because if they go to get a mortgage later or refinancing or something, an institution could say, wait a minute, that shed either has a permit that shouldn't have been permitted, or there is no permit for the shed. But we get to decide, board members, how we want to proceed with this. I think that the shed was not properly permitted by the prior building inspector. However, there was some confusion that arose at the last meeting, and I'd like to thank Ms. Buccieri, who I think sent us a detailed letter on January 12th, the email, I should say, it was by email, from Anthony and Sandra Buccieri, outlining what they understand, and that's in our file. But it looks like they applied for the permit back in September with the broader language saying, excuse me when I get to it. Would like to rebuild a new one on the existing concrete foundation of a larger size. I'm just paraphrasing, so I actually don't have that one. A new one that is larger on an existing concrete foundation, and that it looks like that's how the permit was issued on September 16th. But then, as we found out at the last hearing, during the last hearing, and looking at that and literally reading it aloud, there's a difference between what was handed out on the 16th of September and the way it looks now in the system. At some point between them then and it looks like mid-November, the wording was changed in the system to appear like the Buccieri said less than that, less than full disclosure. In other words, taking out the words that is larger. But that's not, we can't attribute that to the Buccieris. We don't know what happened at this point. But I thank them for giving us their earlier communications. And the date stamps are on the top left-hand corners of these documents that are in the file. Someone changed something in the system. I don't know that we won't resolve that during this hearing anyway. Regardless, there's a building permit that was issued, and then the building inspector asked for detailed plans, and the two plans were submitted as we saw during the prior hearings. So now we can say that the application to overturn the building inspector's decision, we can credit that and revoke the permit in effect. Which would leave the Buccieris to apply for relief to us anew. I suggest they should do that anyway at some point, either now or in the near future, to clear it up. Because I think if it was Mr. Carmichael, I believe it was at the beginning, was in error to apply the 25% rule as we discussed in December. But it's not necessary that we do that right now. We can simply allow the withdrawal of the application, and the building permit will stand. The Buccieris will have a technical problem on the record that I've just spoken about, and I think they should clear it up by applying to us anyway, whether they want to do that right away or in the future, for a variance and a finding under 1.5E, because this is a pre-existing non-conforming lot and use, and that hasn't been decided yet, but it's not before us either. We don't have that application before us. Members, tell me if I've completely confused you or on the record at this point, David and Jim. Do you follow what I'm saying so far, and do you have any other questions as to my thinking or of the participants?
Kevin, I follow what you're saying. Can you hear me okay?
It's tough. Just we'll make do. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I follow what you're saying, and I agree with it. I think I think that's a logical solution to this problem.
I have one question. If we accept the withdrawal, can the permit even be closed?
What do you mean closed?
Well, so they have a permit out there to build a shed. So my assumption is, and I'm going through it with Nick now, but they have a permit that has to be kind of signed off on by the building inspector.
Council said if we accept the withdrawal of the challenge, the permit stands. So I'm not sure, maybe Mr. Iafrede, who is here, can help us. I'm not sure what else would need to be done, except that, in my view, the construction that is now would continue under the permit doesn't have all the requirements. So I'm not suggesting that the town, shut it down again, but Mr. Iafrede could choose to do so. The solution either way is for them to apply for a 1.5E determination for a non-conforming pre-existing use and variance relief. The question is whether we force the issue by, overturning the permit, then they're without a permit, they've got to do it now. Am I missing something, Nick Iafrede? If we withdraw the application to overturn the permit, what happens in your view?
No, so I think what we're going to be left with is that they're going to have essentially what you said, a pre-existing non-conforming structure on their property that's within the setback. So they'll probably be required to apply for setback relief from the board here. At that point, we can continue with an inspection, and I just wouldn't give them a final sign off until they acquired the setback relief from the board here tonight. Whether it's, again, like you said, Mr. Chair, as long as it's in the near future, as long as it's in the process of being done, then I can stand by and wait for that to happen.
So Jim and David, the other board members first, we can continue with the process and discuss whether the permit was correctly issued or not. In other words, the Vesalias have asked to withdraw their application to overturn, but council says it's our choice. If we don't think the permit was properly issued, we can, since there's an application pending, we don't have to accept the withdrawal, and we can move on that at this time. Or we could just withdraw it and let it play out as the town, as the building commissioner and the Bucciaris, decide to play it out over the next weeks and months.
That might be a cleaner way.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I think if the permit gets withdrawn, and maybe some clarification. So if the permit gets withdrawn and becomes null and void, at that point, then they would have to reapply for a new building permit, and then they would be directed by me to you guys for a variance. And I think that might be the cleanest way to do it, like Jim said. But again, it's ultimately up to you guys and how you want to do that.
Yeah, I agree. So if the application gets withdrawn, the permit is still out there. That's the issue, and it's up to the Bucciaris to, or you, Nick, to say, wait a minute, this isn't right. I'm going to revoke the permit. I don't know what is cleaner to do. I think they have to correct it at some point anyway. So perhaps we don't take a vote to withdraw the application and further discuss that now. Is that the way to proceed, Jim?
I'm just in my mind. I'm trying to think what's the cleanest, because I don't want to leave them in a predicament, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was erased. Yeah.
The Bucciaris have acted in good faith here all along, and in fact were helpful to us in pointing out the flaw in the system.
Right.
So that's exactly why I'm bringing it up. I think they have to apply eventually anyway. And I think the correct thing to do is to decide, to decide on the permit and put it to the forefront. As Nick says, without a permit, they then have to apply, and Nick would anew decide whether they are entitled to a permit, where the shed is, considering, all the factors that we've talked about. And he could issue a permit on whatever basis, that's not our bailiwick, or he could say, no, you've got to approach the zoning board for variance and a change to a non-conforming use, which, we see many of in the town because we have a lot of non-conforming lots in the town of Norton. I think that's the correct thing to do. Does that put an extra burden? I don't think it puts an extra burden on the Bucciaris. It prompts them to do something sooner rather than later.
Chair, can I just ask, is it a necessary step then for them to reapply and then Nick direct them, or could we advise that they just submit for the variance?
They can submit for variance if they'd like, sure. Do that directly, skip Nick. I'm just suggesting they may choose to move the shed somewhere on the property and, say, well, we're going to do this. Here's a new plan, Mr. Iafrede. Can we do this? They may decide to do that, Paul. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
I think where the shed currently is required a finding from the zoning board. So in effect, I'm saying I think the prior building commissioner did err in, granting the permit. I think we should address it, but
So let me ask you, so if we don't grant the withdrawal, right? Let me make sure I get it straight. So if we don't grant the withdrawal,
then we decide on the building permit, just like
and we decide on the building permit, can we grant the variance?
No.
Because that's not before us, right?
There's no variance or 1.5e application before us, right? So it requires them to go through that process, which is
They're gonna have to go through it no matter what we do.
they should, unless we allow the withdrawal and the permit stands, and then it's up to the town either to, enforce some action against them, or for the Bucciaris to come forward and say, well, wait, we want to be legal and in compliance. Here's our application.
Dave, did you have something? Were you gonna say something?
I'm getting a little confused, but it sounds like we don't really have any other choice other than to withdraw the application. Because we really can't make a decision tonight, because we don't have a finding in front of us.
Right.
Rule on.
I'm sorry, I did not get that. Did you get that, Paul, or Dave? Can you state that again?
So what I think I heard, and Dave, just you can nod, is that he said he thinks we don't have any other choice. We should accept the withdrawal because there is no other finding in front of us to rule on.
No, we don't have to accept the withdrawal. We can move forward on the merits of the challenge. So we don't have to accept the withdrawal. There is a challenge before us. It's application to overturn the building inspector.
Yeah, I guess my point was, but tonight we would not be making a finding regarding 1.5e, because that's not before us.
No, we would proceed to decide whether the building inspector was in error in September. I've already voiced my opinion that I think it was an error because of a couple of reasons. So we would proceed to, in my view, we would then grant the application to overturn the building inspector. I mean, the Bisegli has filed it. They don't have to be part of the process. Now, they brought to our attention a flaw, at least in my view, a flaw in the building permit. So we get to act on that now.
Correct, but it sounds to me like we end up in the same place at the end of the day, either way.
Mr. Chair, if I may real quick, I don't know if this will clarify things for anybody.
Please, go ahead, Mr. Ivory.
So the way I would look at this is either the application, the building permit gets overturned or taken, and then the Bucciaris would have to reapply for a new building permit for the shed, and then again at that point I would suggest that they would have to come in front of you for a variance before I issue the new building permit.
They have to file an application for whatever relief they want, deciding whatever they want to do, right?
Yep, correct. Or if the permit stands, on the final inspection, the setback issue is going to get the non-conforming status now is going to come into play on the final inspection, and I won't be able to sign off on the final without getting satisfied.
Okay, see, that's what I didn't understand. There is a final inspection. Is that what Jim Tenori was bringing up?
There should be, yes, there should be a final inspection on this when this is all completed.
Okay, so then that informs, I think then that we should not withdraw the appeal, and I think should act on the appeal to bring this to a resolution, and the process that Nick just outlined can be played out. So there is an email asking us to withdraw the application. I do not recommend that we withdraw the appeal. I recommend that we continue discussing and hopefully close discussion on the appeal in a fairly quick fashion. With all due respect to the Bucciaris who have acted in good faith here, I just think the process didn't play out correctly.
I agree.
I'd be comfortable with that. I don't know about you, Dave.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think I'm
Okay.
fine with that.
Okay, then we're going to put aside the request to withdraw the appeal. There's a flaw in the system that allowed some change to be made in the permit and apparently to the application as it appears now. If you go into the system, I haven't gone into the system, but Ms. Bucciari did and sent us, showing us the changes. I think that has to be addressed by the town. They've acted in good faith, but I think that the building inspector was in error in issuing the building permit. That is my discussion on this matter at this point. Jim, David?
I'm in agreement.
David?
You're being asked for?
Say it again, David. I didn't get it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What's the? I'm sorry. What's the question?
Just whether you agree with the general proposition that the building permit was issued in error.
Oh yes, yes.
You have to take a vote. We're asking for discussion right now.
Yeah, I think I do agree with issued in error.
My position is that I think there was an error in that they weren't directed to seek relief for pre-existing non-conforming use. Any change of that requires a finding under 1.5e and then possibly a variance relief as well. The building inspector used a section of the statute that talks about you don't have to do that if the increase in habitable space is 25% or less. We're not talking about a residential structure. We're talking about an accessory structure. I don't think that comes into play, and that's my reasoning. So that I think the building inspector should have sent them to the zoning board for relief.
Concur.
Yes.
David, anything further? Okay.
No, sorry.
It's okay. I will ask the Bucciaris if they care to comment any further at this point.
I'm confused. I don't understand what. So we got our permit approved, and now it was wrong. So now what does that mean? Do we have to now move the shed that we've spent thousands of dollars?
No, what we're suggesting is if we take a vote to overturn the building inspector's decision, then you and Mr. Iafrede would discuss the next moves. I believe that he will, if you give him the same plan, he will say that you have to apply for a variance and a 1.5e finding because it's a small lot.
Okay.
And
So
then then you would come back before us on that application.
Okay, so now we have to fill out another form to
An
send
application to the zoning board, yes,
to you guys?
correct. And
Okay.
Mr. Iafrede can, I think, guide you through that, explain the process.
Okay. And then we have to go through this again and ask you guys to approve that 1.5E?
Yes, and variance relief, right, which you didn't apply for, which we're saying we think you should have been made to apply for the first time.
Okay.
We're not saying that you're gonna have a problem getting that relief.
No, I know. It's
We're
just-
trying to go by according to the bylaw and issue a decision based on, the law as we understand it and the bylaw
Right.
as we understand it.
Right,
It's not a negative decision against anything you've done. We understand what happened here.
yeah, okay,
And just be in full disclosure, I don't know if if you don't do that, what I think the chair was saying, further down the line, so you go to refi, sell your house, do anything of the above, and you don't have that, you're gonna be in a predicament that you're gonna be trying to seek relief
oh, right,
in a
Right.
short order, and you might not be able to.
right, no, 100%. We just want it to be done correctly and to be able to finish it at this point.
And we're all familiar with the facts, obviously, so
Yeah.
if you want to talk with Nick, very soon, as in the next couple of days, do so, and we'll get you back on to our meeting as soon as we can.
Okay,
We'll move with all deliberate speed. Paul certainly understands what you've been through.
okay,
It's no fault of yours.
yeah.
We,
I
under-
know, it's just-
we understand that.
Yeah,
Okay, so, and Nick is agreeing that he's going to, work with you and to get it done properly.
okay,
So is there a motion then to grant the appeal to overturn the building inspector's issuance of the building permit in this matter?
I'll make that motion.
Uh,
It looks like Dave's having some issues with his microphone, so I'll make that motion to grant the appeal to overturn.
David, can you signal or turn on the microphone? Is that a second? I'll take that as a second. Thumbs up for a second, David? An affirmative sign? Okay, thank you. All right, any further discussion? Jim, I don't think any further discussion is warranted.
No, sir.
Mr. Tenori, how do you vote on that motion?
Yes.
Mr. Wren, how do you vote on that motion?
Yes,
You do have a microphone. I heard the yes. Mr. Noel votes yes as well. All right, so the building inspector's determination is overturned. I would suggest the Bucciaris meet with Mr. Iafrede as soon as possible, and that Mr. Iafrede assist them in getting the proper relief for what needs to be done. What I said before also to the Bucciaris, if you decide you're going to move the shed 20 foot inland, that's up to you. Then, maybe you go to Nick Iafrede and he says, I'll issue a permit for that because it complies. We're not saying you decide what you're going to do next, but you could talk to Mr. Iafrede very soon about what it is you intend to do. All right. Thank you very much for taking part, and we expect we'll see you again very soon.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Please do that.
That was a strange posture that we were in, but town council said if we thought it was inappropriately issued, we had that option to do, and that's probably the better thing to do to clear it up now. So thank you for the assistance. Next item on the agenda is the continued comprehensive permit hearing for 195 Mansfield Ave, AR Building Company, Gust Nominee Trust. I see Mr. Freeman is here, and perhaps some of his crew is assembled as well. I'm scanning some names. I see Mr. Campbell is here. Members, this is still an open public hearing. We're at very near the end point, if not there. Mr. Freeman, are you, your audio is good?
I believe so.
Loud and clear.
All of you? Good.
Glad to hear that. Glad to hear you. We have the draft decision that Mr. DiGiuseppe had made some very minor edits to after the last meeting. I did a compare doc and very minor edits. I have a question, and I'd like to lead off, Peter. I know you appeared before the Water and Sewer Commission. Mr. Fournier is with us tonight. We have his name here and his audio anyway. Can you, Peter, discuss with us your interaction with the Water and Sewer Commission?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, for 1 second, please.
Yes.
Luke Grant, Chairman, Water Sewer Department, is also here.
Yes. Thank you. Yep.
Please
Okay.
continue.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you both. So in a nutshell, picking up from the last hearing that we were at with the ZBA, that had been one of, I think, the very few, almost only outstanding item. We had listed in our application, just for the benefit of everybody here, our application with the ZBA for waivers from fees, at least for affordable units. And we understood that the zoning board wanted us to go to the Water and Sewer Commission. And so we did that, and we discussed the fees, very courteous meeting. They declined to agree to any waivers, and we said we accept that, and we're telling you tonight, for the purposes of the 40B, we accept that. And then the only other thing was that, you know, they want peer review, which is fine. And in fact, a peer review report came in from Weston and Sampson, and I believe that Paul had a copy. I also received a copy. And in a nutshell, DePreet Engineering is here with Joe Penny tonight because Brandon may join later, but he had another hearing. So they've reviewed it, and we don't have any issues with those technical things about pipes and all of that. So, you know, our situation, as much as we had expected, because we had preliminary discussions ages ago with the Water and Sewer, including in June when the plans were sent, and Brandon had some discussions then with Frank Fournier and subsequently, who helped set up the meeting with the Water and Sewer Commission, which we appreciate. So in a nutshell, where we're at is we can say we withdraw our request for fee reductions or waivers. We still have the request, and I think it is written in the decision that and now you know that there are no substantive issues other than pipe sizes and things like that, which we said from the get-go will comply with all the technical things. So as is the case with 40Bs, we ask that, you know, the zoning board approve, and the decision state that our permission to connect to the water and sewer is granted, subject to complying with all the technical aspects of their rules and regs and the peer review that the Water and Sewer Commission has undertaken.
Okay. That's what I was curious about, whether the applicant accepted the non-waiver of the fees. So thank you for clearing that up. Mr. Grant or Mr. Fournier, we received today, I think, 2 peer review documents from your peer review firm. Have you gone over those, and are you satisfied with those being additional conditions that we would, you know, write into our decision?
Mr. Chairman, this is Luke Grant. I'll ask for Frank's opinion first. I have reviewed it. The technical stuff I rely on Frank, so let's go ahead and see what Frank has to say.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Mr. Fournier? And I realized that the Water and Sewer Commission got the documents, I think, yesterday and the day before. Maybe you just got them, you know, yesterday or even this morning. We just got them this morning and passed them along to the applicant. But Mr. Fournier, are you in agreement that you are satisfied now with the peer review recommendations and that the applicant is no longer asking to waive fees?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. We are satisfied with the document that came through. There will be some additional discussions that will go on with the connections that will need to be made to the existing infrastructure in the road. That is written in that peer review. There is going to be a requirement for a hydrant flow test that will be done at a later time to determine correct sprinkler size for the building. that will be the final determination on what size sprinkler main will need to be connected off of the existing domestic. The domestic water service for the building, I believe, was clearly stated in there that will be a 4-inch line, but everything else seems to fall in order.
Okay, and we're talking about the two peer reviews together from Weston and Sampson, correct?
Correct, sir, both water and sewer.
Okay. Members, did you have any questions regarding those peer reviews that the Water and Sewer Commission got done for benefit of the project?
I did not.
I'm okay with it.
Then what I'm going to thanks to the Water and Sewer Commission for coming to tell us that. I anticipated there was going to be a disagreement as to the fees, and that's why we had asked initially to come to us to tell us the rationale. But the applicant is willing to withdraw that fee waiver, so we don't need to get into that right now. But thank you very much for coming to clear all of this up. Then I would assume, Mr. Freeman, then that we can write in a condition saying that applicant will follow through with Water and Sewer Commission per the two Weston and Sampson reports dated January 2021, and she'll comply with to the satisfaction of the Water and Sewer Commission.
That's fine. It can follow in the section that's already written that says that we shall comply with the technical aspects. So Paul can certainly add the text that you just stated. Yes.
Okay, great. I'm sure that can be done fairly easily there, the comments. And I see their flow tests. Those are interesting concepts, but they don't get determined till later, I guess. So we'll certainly go along with that recommendation. Members, anything else on the water hookup or sewer hookup issues?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Luke Grant again.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Freeman and all, if this peer review is a rather small amount of time and therefore related money, and in the past we've had Weston and Sampson hold a retainer, and Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you folks know how the money should flow. I think this is a one-time thing for our consulting engineers, so I don't know whether the funds go through the water department to Weston and Sampson. If the applicant pays them directly, we have a bill, I think it's somewhere around $4,000. The exact number escapes me right now, but as I think it will not continue, I think this could just be handled directly, or I don't know how best to do that. Let me put it that way.
Let me ask something now to Peter and to you, Mr. Grant. I thought this contemplated a further peer review at the construction phase. Does it not? Because I was going to ask about that actually.
Mr. Chairman, if I can answer, because my answer should, I think, satisfy everybody.
Yeah, go ahead.
And including the fact that my client just texted me to that effect. So in a nutshell, I don't think that your ZBA decision needs to get into the amount and when the peer review is. What I would propose is, and Mr. Grant and Mr. Fournier, what Jason just texted me is the $4,000, we'll pay it. So, and if you have a further peer review, although it sounds like there wouldn't be much, but I don't mind that the ZBA decision simply add, in addition to what Mr. Noel already dictated, so to speak, that it says, and pay any water and sewer peer review fees directly to the Water and Sewer Commission.
I don't know how it works legally. I defer to you and Amy to work that out. But I'm just saying that we would say what I said before, and that subject to only further review to ensure compliance with the peer reviews, so recommendation, something like that.
That's fine. I mean, again, that I'm stating publicly, very publicly, and telling not just you folks, but the Water and Sewer Commission folks that, that's what we'll do. You have our word, and, that condition, as you said, that's fine if that's the way you want it. And, we'll certainly pay as requested by Mr. Grant.
Understood, and thank you. Mr. Grant and Fournier,
that satisfies us. Thank you very much. I was I'm not trying to, go crazy on this. I just wanted to make sure it was, it was a small enough item, so I thought we could handle it, and we'll get the facts and how it should be, whether it goes through the water department, and the town, and then to Weston and Sampson or whatever. We'll get that tracked out. Thank you, Mr. Freeman, and we'll look forward. I think the on-site stuff will be more inspectional rather than engineering. So the folks internal inspections on your pipes will happen, and that's kind of a different sort of thing. But as we continue on this process, we certainly will work with you in every capacity we can.
And
Thank you very much.
it may be that the Water and Sewer Commission is satisfied with its own ability to inspect what the applicant is actually constructing. So maybe it wouldn't be sent to further peer review. That's up to the Water and Sewer Commission. That was what I was anticipating. That's how I scribbled some notes down. So thank you, Mr. Grant and Mr. Fournier. And Judy Barrett is with us. She is a 40B consultant extraordinaire. And she and or Amy, town council, can answer whatever questions, technical questions about how the money moves, because I don't know how the money moves either. So maybe Judy, you could talk to Judy after the meeting. We don't have to get into those details right now. Frank and Luke, thank you very much for your participation and for your help.
Very welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
So thank you. So Peter, just bring us up to date. Were there other changes made? Did you make any plan changes? So I thought that was actually part of what was being discussed with Water and Sewer, or is that to come later?
No, the details that we discussed with Water and Sewer and that were mentioned in the Weston and Sampson reports, I think it was the water more than the sewer, was, the exact inch of the pipes and things like that. But, Brandon, and I'm sure Joe Penny as well, but Brandon definitely read it, as did I, but they're the engineers, and they're fine with that. So there's nothing else that needs to be specified.
Okay, I didn't know if the plans, our plans had to change.
No. I mean, Joe, you may know offhand, I don't know that the pipes were specified, the pipe dimensions were specified on our plans. And not to be, I'm detail oriented, as you know, so in no way do I need to be, flippant about it. But the detailed condition that you just stated as to Water and Sewer would mean that we'd have to get their approval. So I don't think the fact that this plan shows X would be limiting. We certainly don't intend to come back and say, we got you. The plan shows something. We're clearly on record saying we'll do whatever the Water and Sewer folks want.
Yeah, Joe Penny from Dupree Engineering. Two things. Both letters, the main issues were that there's sufficient capacity in the existing system to accept our project. And then there were some minor comments on details and construction issues, which we have no problem meeting those details prior to construction and giving them that information. So there's no changes to the existing plans as submitted to you, but before we construct the final water and sewer lines, we'll add the details and the information that was contained on Weston and Sampson's letters. So if you reference their letters in your approval, we'll make those changes prior to construction.
That's how I think we have done it in the past, Peter, attaching them actually as.
Yeah, absolutely, that's fine.
Right. So, okay, we'll take care of that. Thank you, Mr. Penny. So Peter, where are we generally? In your view, we're at the end, correct?
Correct, and I don't think you folks will disagree. I think we had pretty much gone over everything last time, and as you said, Paul made changes. If I may, just to ask Paul directly a question, because I think I was a little slow in the uptake. But Paul, you've been working through the Dropbox, and I don't think I picked up on the fact until today that you added a few things, some by comment, and some things that are perfectly fine that followed the ZBA hearing. Is that correct? That the Dropbox version of the draft has been updated?
Yeah, the only change I've made in the last week or so was to incorporate Conservation Director Jen Carlino's comments about the waiver for the stormwater management bylaw, the local stormwater management bylaw.
Right, and that had been, if I may continue, Mr. Chairman, that had been the only other outstanding item, which now it seems as though we, meaning Jennifer Carlino, the conservation agent or director rather, and through the whole process, with the Conservation Commission that were in agreement with the comments that she wrote up. So I actually wrote up and I sent it to Paul today. I don't know if you have it, but I wrote up specifically more detail or specificity in the request for stormwater management bylaw waiver. We had asked for a blanket one, and the suggestion, in essence, in the comments on this revised decision jives exactly with what I put in the document today. There were specific sections that are mentioned. The only substantive one is section 10A, small I, or small one, I guess it's a small I, which is the business of about half an inch versus 1 inch of retention. And we had discussed that with you, Brandon did last time. And, our understanding clearly is that, Jennifer is okay with this waiver. She just felt, which we agree with, that's what the comments that Paul added say, she felt that because it's 40B, that any waiver should come from you as to the local bylaw. They deal with the state permit, and they want to consider what's going on as to their local bylaw. So she expressed no substantive concern. We actually, disagreed with their consultant's analysis, but, the path of least resistance, and it appears that nobody's, in terms of the substance of it, concerned, to grant the waiver. And then, also jibing with what she said about their process, where she said no real stormwater management permit is needed. They will just issue their order of conditions. But to cross T's and dot I's, I just specified the procedural sections in the short document I submitted today. The waiver is requested from section 4, which is jurisdictional, which means we don't need to go to them separately to get our permit or approval. And section 12 is just all the application procedures that deal with applying to the Conservation Commission. And just, for your edification, I copied and pasted the section 10A1 on this page, just so you can see it. And if you need any further explanation beyond what Brandon wrote up in terms of our explanation, then Joe could do that. Joe could explain further if you need.
Well, you're saying that conservation has agreed with this. Is that your?
Well, that's my understanding from talking to Paul and also looking at the comments that Paul added on page 21 of the decision, the waivers,
Yep.
Which was based on his conversation with Jennifer.
Okay, so you did see Paul notes 6 and 7, because that's what I would.
Yes.
Okay, then that's the latest version that I'm aware of. So that's what I'm talking about.
And that is, and Chair, I just want to point out that language was actually directly copied and pasted from Jen's email. So I guess one question I have is, she mentioned section standard 3. You have standard 10.
Well, I believe what she's talking about is there's the bylaw, and I printed it in case that question came up. They have another section which just generally says that you abide by the DEP state stormwater standards. And so when she says standard 3, it's actually standard 3 in the state stormwater guidelines. It's a little confusing, and frankly, well, just a little confusing in that their consultant, Dan, the Concom, agrees that we comply as to the way DEP interprets their standard 3. And I think Joe was not, but he can correct me if I'm wrong. But the Conservation Commission apparently in Norton interprets standard 3 to get into this 1 inch business. And so that's really the guts of the matter. So there isn't because I scoured and I asked Brandon, I scoured the local bylaw and there is no standard 3. There's just a reference in an earlier section that says abide by the state DEP standards, which are 1 through 10, which are 10 standards.
Well, I'm glad you said it's a little bit confusing, because we don't at this point work with these standards. So this is all, should I say Greek to me? I'm half Greek, so I can say that and get away with it.
I think before I retire, I'm going to want an engineering degree. Can you help me with that, Joe?
Well, if I could explain it a little differently, because I'm listening to it and I'm confused, but the reality is we filed under the state regulations for this project because it's a 40B. We didn't file under the town bylaw because we're not required to file under the town bylaw. We met all the requirements of the state DEP for the stormwater. And then under the town bylaw, rather than asking for a waiver from the entire bylaw, we met every single requirement of the town's bylaw except for this one issue. And this one issue is a discrepancy between the town bylaw and the state. Instead of a ½ inch, which the state has, the town had 1 inch. So we asked for a waiver from specifically that one section of your bylaw.
And is that 3 or 10? 3.
It's section.
The one
it's
that
section-
Peter referred to.
Okay.
It's-
Okay.
Yeah, it is, and this is not me becoming an engineer, to be serious for a moment. It's what the section that Brandon pointed out to me, everybody, and Joe, that 10A1. I think that there may be a different document, an additional document that the Conservation Commission has under the local bylaw, which is pretty much the same as those 10 state standards, except they tweaked number 3 to have the ½ inch or the 1 inch instead of the ½ inch.
But it sounds like you and your crew and Paul are confident that we're talking about the same thing here. I mean,
Yes.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
We can work out the label, but just as we type up the final document. But I just wanted to know on that level.
So they're just asking for a waiver from the 1 inch rule for stormwater. So that's all. That's it in a nutshell. It's complicated, but you're granting a waiver not from the state because you can't, but from the local bylaw.
As long as we can get the language agreed on, it's fine. We can then. So we have to add this in to the decision somewhere, right?
Yeah, I can refine it because they had in the waiver document, they had a request for the full amount, but I can go in and revise it to say they're seeking the one change in section
Okay.
10
Yeah.
and change it from half,
Paul, you
1
may
inch to ½ inch.
you may still want to tweak it, which is fine, but the way I wrote it was with the intent that you could pretty much copy and paste. Judge, the way we wrote it up, Brandon, on the details, he does get into the ½ inch versus the 1 inch, but if you feel you need to tweak it, that's fine. But I tried to put it, and the intent was that, we would take out the way I wrote it so far in the draft decision, which followed the application request. But I think you can just copy and paste what I put in here, not the actual bylaw section itself, but the waivers with the sections I cited, and tweak it. So that's why I wrote it that way. Obviously, once the board votes, you would say that it's granted, hopefully, but that's the same with all the other ones.
Understood. I think I understand. I mean, I think I understand enough that there's not a disagreement here, and we can proceed in good faith on that. I think. All right, then I went through the decision, and I have some notes and questions. None of them I think intended to change anything or add anything, but maybe to clarify. Can we take time to do that right now, Peter? Are you
love to get it done? Absolutely.
And then maybe after that run through, assuming we don't have any big disagreements or issues, subject to Paul, and other members asking, and Judy as well on these things, maybe I assume what you're suggesting, Peter, is that we take a vote to approve the project tonight, which then triggers, is it a 30-day written 40 day?
Yes, it's 40 days, but I assume that because the conditions are essentially just about completely written, subject to any tweaks tonight, that the decision itself could be voted, and then Paul would make the tweaks in the final version that you would sign.
Well, yeah, but that's right. We have some time to do that.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just saying that I don't think it takes another substantive hearing to do it.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just asking what's the time period we have.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 40 days, yeah.
I'm not saying we'll take 40 days. I don't want to take 40 days.
Yeah, I know.
But then we'll have a new public pandemic or something. What, Ms. Barrett?
I just want to know, what is the date on the version that you're looking at? I
Well,
think I have a couple of versions of this decision. I just want to make sure I'm looking at the correct one.
it's actually dated 12/21, but Paul had tweaked it a couple of times. I can email you the one that I have.
Could you do that?
You want to do it right now? So you,
Yeah. Yeah, just, I want to make sure I'm looking at the same one so I don't cause any confusion.
I will tell you where I'm getting it from, and hopefully Paul's not going to tell me I'm wrong. It's from the current Dropbox, which I re-downloaded this morning.
But mine isn't syncing. That's the problem. That's why I'm not seeing some things that you guys are.
Got
For
it?
some reason, my Dropbox is not syncing.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Let me just get to it. So we,
Tom, I'm going to send it to her.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
it's the one in Dropbox this morning, correct?
That's what I'm looking at, yeah.
It hasn't. It was last changed on the January 14th.
And those are the notes that we were just talking about, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. Within 195 Mansfield Ave, within decision. It is titled 12/21/2020 ZBA decision PLF space PD. That's the title on mine.
Yeah, that's the correct one.
And you're going to email that right now to Judy?
Already done.
Okay, great. You're faster than I am.
I'm sorry to bother you. It's just not syncing correctly. I don't know why.
It's okay.
Are you having trouble with the Dropbox opening properly?
Mine's just not syncing with the town. That's all. For some reason, it's not working.
Okay.
All right. So aside from, small formatting or, punctuation issues, things of that sort, members join in. Paul, join in if you have any final thoughts or tweaks that you're talking about. But I'm skipping to, Peter will be happy to know, skipping to page 4, numbered page 4, within findings of fact. Peter, are you with me?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm there. I've got it all set up for once I had it's all on my other screen. Thank you.
And Judy and Paul, I'm looking at the bottom of numbered page 4. It's in blue highlight background. Number 15, the project shall tie into.
Yeah, I think that's going to be changed by what we discussed tonight.
Right, that's maybe what should be modified. But I think, Paul, you had recommended in your notes, and I agree, for this and the next one, shouldn't we move these to the condition section? And I was agreeing with Paul's notes there. Is that a problem, Peter?
Well, I don't think there's a substantive problem. I don't know why I don't see comments. Well, here's a question instead of finding. It is a finding. It says it shall tie into, but if you want to make it a finding, you can change the word the project will tie into, because that's the only thing that distinguishes it from a finding as opposed to a condition. I think it's helpful to have a finding of fact that the project is going to tie into. So you can either say will or is going to tie into the municipal water and sewer. I don't think you need anything else, because then there'll be a condition along the lines of what we discussed just now as to the Weston and Sampson, et cetera.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's almost repeating it in the conditions section, but to the extent we have something different now, maybe we can work with it that way. Okay, so let's work on that going forward.
But I think the condition is going to look largely like this, other than with the changes. Okay, I'm just making notes.
Yep. And the same thing on what's numbered 17, the applicant will file a notice of intent. That to me looks like a condition.
I don't really care. It's just in terms of ease of why bother to change, but that's up to Paul. It's really a fact, which is why I'm comfortable with it being a finding of fact, because under the federal program, we have to do that. So whether or not you condition it, we have to do it, or else we're not in compliance and all that.
I didn't know.
But if you're more comfortable adding it as a condition, I have no problem with it.
Okay. And what is NPD? Oh, it's right there.
National Pollution
Discharge.
Yep.
Thank you. Got it. Yeah, okay, well, Paul and I will look at, moving that or even copying it into the conditions. That's fine. Just a couple of typos. I don't have to talk about those. Page 6 is my next suggestion. Conditions, number 1. I'm just going to add, I'm going to define premises as being the property and the improvements. Because
Sure.
premises comes up later, capitalized, and it's not defined elsewhere. So I think that works. Premises is the property and the improvements thereon.
That's fine.
I'll just take care of that. I'm just going through things that you might, have a problem with, though I don't think you're going to.
Tom, change just the property.
No, I'll put it, I wrote some notes up, Paul. I'll add something in here.
Okay.
It's an additional definition. What I'm bringing up, I'm comfortable adjusting here.
Okay.
I'll do it within a day or so. Number 3. Let me ask this as a question. The last part of number 3, affordable shall be indistinguishable as viewed from the exterior. To me, that doesn't seem to fit in this project. We're talking about a building, an apartment building. But I think we had asked this before, and I'm sorry I don't recall. We have the right to require that the units be indistinguishable in all respects, don't we?
Not really, because it's up to the subsidizing agency. I think Jason is here, at least I think Jason's here. I know Jason's here. But I think you have said in the past discussion, actually at this hearing, that you're going to have the market units and the affordable units the same, interior. Because of course with rentals, what happens, not tons of the time, but it's not like a for sale project where there's an affordable unit that will always remain affordable. If somebody goes over income, et cetera, there is some change in the location. So I'll let Jason expand.
Yeah, Peter's correct. We don't build a subsidized unit and a market rate unit. They're all the same. The subsidizing agency may come in and say and designate, oh, this one is it. And I don't really know if they do that. I think they might just say we have to have a certain percentage of them, whichever one is open. Because if you have one that's open and then somebody moves out, it moves around. We don't build them any different at all whatsoever. So,
okay, so then maybe I should have started with my question. Can I adjust the last line to say affordable units shall be indistinguishable, take out as viewed from the exterior, because that's me.
Yeah, you can do that.
From the market rate units, in terms of size, design, appliances, and amenities. Doesn't that make sense? You're saying that's a given anyway. Can we write that in?
It's a given. You change it. That's fine. They're the same unit. There's no distinguishing difference at all whatsoever.
Because I saw later in the decision, obviously, if somebody becomes not eligible for subsidization, that gets removed, and you have to create a new one within
Yep.
this.
Your language covers it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's interesting. So the state has requirements and how long you have to do that and all of those things.
Yeah, you have to re-up every year, right, Peter?
Oh,
Yes.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, they allow someone who's over income to stay until there's another unit, and then they have a certain amount of time to use. I mean, theoretically, they could be over income, and if everybody stays there their
Right.
entire life and their income doesn't change, then that one person will stay there. But the real world doesn't happen that way.
Their rent is simply adjusted. I mean, if they go over 140% of area median income, then at that point it becomes a market unit. And so the next time a market unit vacates, it becomes an affordable unit. And that's why most developers do have the units, the interior of the units the same.
Okay, so I'm just going to I'll just adjust that language. And obviously, Peter, if you have a problem with it, you can, tell us. But we're at the point where we're just drafting, so that's.
Yeah. Oh, and that should be fine.
And that's why I wanted to ask it as a question. Members, nothing else to add there? Okay. Next one is paragraph 4. What is the affordable units in the initial leasing? Why is it limited to the initial leasing? What is that?
Well, it's largely for the reasons that we just discussed. The identification of the affordable units will be designated and approved by the subsidizing agency, which requires that they give their approval, at the initial lease up when they first construct and, start leasing. But for the reasons we just discussed, there's going to be some change. That's all.
So it's just applicable just to the initial leasing. That's what it means.
Yeah.
I got you. And then the state regs take over after that. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. I'm skipping to, thankfully, page 9.
Yeah.
The paragraph now, well, a bunch of numbers attached. Down at on page 9, the third from the bottom, this comprehensive permit shall expire.
Yeah.
That paragraph. So we have a trigger on the construction. Is construction then, the way it's written here, construction is open-ended? I mean, you could take 10 years to complete the building? How does it just satisfy me that that's not the case?
Well, it's a multiple part answer. It's not, practically speaking, the case. In large measure, in this project, it's one building.
Right.
So it's not a phased project. When I say in large measure, it's, you can appreciate as a lawyer, there is case law that when a project is phased, as long as they initiate the construction within the first 3 years, you actually could come back 10 years later. I think it's an unlikely, for phase 2. I think it's an unlikely scenario, but it's also moot on this one.
Okay.
So that's the full answer.
We might have gotten into this the last time with somebody from the town. Remind me, do all the units have to be completed before you rent one out, or is that not the case?
I'll ask Jason again. I'm not sure if it's susceptible.
I'm just trying to get a feeling of
Yeah.
satisfaction for them.
Yeah.
That's really it's a building
You're breaking up. I'm sorry.
inspection thing, but the reality is that we've done it in the sense where people will say, oh, well, we actually will CO different units and temporary CO the building and say, well, these units are ready to go. But I don't care to do that. I mean, if we need to say everything has to be CO, it's fine. We normally CO a whole building at one time anyway.
That was pretty badly broken up.
I think the bottom line is that in the past, they sometimes have done them separately, but if
The
you're
bottom line is you can CO the whole building at one time. I'm fine with it.
Okay, so one final certificate of occupancy for the at once for the whole building.
So that takes care of my question.
Yeah.
What if this takes 5 years to complete? I mean, we want the
Yeah.
stock in service, and I'm just asking what control we have to make sure the building gets done. But okay.
Mr. Chair, I remember us talking specifically about that in the past, and they agreed it wasn't going to be phased in. It was going to be one occupancy.
Okay.
No.
Thanks. Oh, okay. Number 10. I'm sorry. Page 10. Next page, I believe. The last paragraph, Peter, I think is a duplicate paragraph. Last paragraph on page 10 is the same as the new number 3, general conditions. I think it's just repeated.
if it is, obviously it's fine to delete one. I don't know if the previous place where it's typed included what I added, which just was to be cognizant of the COVID situation in terms of any safety protocols.
That's actually what caught my eye. I think it's the same as the second paragraph on the previous page, but we'll look at that. Looks like a duplicate exactly.
Yeah. Okay. You and Paul can take care of that. That's good.
Okay. I'm going to page 12 now. Number page 12. Let's see, I have a bunch of notes here. Let me just look. This was the water and sewer changes that we talked about this earlier, so we're fine. We can move on from there. What's now new number 5, lighting for the project shall be shown, plan of record. All external lighting shall be installed and operational prior to issuance of occupancy. Is that standard? Is that okay?
I don't see why that's objectionable because it's necessary. I would presume that's what the building commissioner or inspector would require. And likewise, Jason would want it for safety.
Got it.
Right, and I think, I don't know, Nick's not on the call, but typically when you issue final CO, that means,
Okay.
well, the interior work is all done. I mean, there could be exterior work, I guess,
I'm just,
potentially, but
yep, some of this might be naive on my part. I'm just
We do it all. We'll have it all done. That's all
Language.
part of it. It's fine.
Sorry, I can't see who's talking. I didn't see
No,
that.
That was
fine.
just, he just confirmed that if you want to add that, well, I don't think anything needs to
It's
be
a
added.
legitimate question. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be
Fine.
done.
Jason, just so you know, Jason's iPad, the video looks like it's a frozen picture. We can hear your audio, but the picture's frozen. So,
He froze when the Steelers were
I
eliminated.
hope it's a good picture.
oh, there you're back. You're back. What was that football?
I didn't hear what Peter just said. I must have missed his comment.
I said he froze when the Steelers were eliminated from the. Just remember, my guy's still in the Super Bowl, even though it's a different team.
Boy,
He can't be your guy then. It's against the rules of the Massachusetts bar.
Yeah, it must be.
Sorry, you're breaking up, Peter. I really can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I know you don't want to hear it.
You didn't want to hear it. Yeah. Okay. The sidewalk, we had gone through that language before, and that figure was good. All correct.
yeah, that number was also, that was, Brandon got it confirmed by Keith Silver, our highway superintendent.
Page, sorry, I keep stepping on you too, Paul. I'm sorry. Page 13, the paragraph at the top. New number 10, the applicant agrees to sprinkler. What the last sentence, does that trail off or am I reading it wrong? Shall require sprinkler system designed per code as 13, period?
You mean 13R, Jeff? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that should be NFPA 13R.
Can we just fill that in? I just don't understand what as 13 means. So what should it be?
It should be would be designed per code as NFPA 13R.
NFPA.
I've got it.
Okay, you know what that is. Okay. I was looking for paragraph 13 and I didn't understand. Okay. Here's where I thought the water and sewer contemplated later peer review, but I guess we've taken care of it. It was 13A on that page. A in the paragraph there, for review by the board's peer review consultant to ensure consistency. But we've already discussed that and taken care of that. Okay. At the bottom of page 13, number 14, the security cameras. I'm just gonna add functional, commercially reasonable security cameras. Tell me if that's a problem. I'll just.
No, that's fine.
I'm just going to adjust it. I mean, some of these, obviously, if I go too far on an edit, just shoot back to us, after you get it.
law enforcement oriented. I think they should be kept for 900 days. I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
Well, part of what I was wondering is to write in something that the recording or record shall be kept for 30 days. Is there a standard?
I think that's standard.
I can't answer that. I don't know. We never look back on them. I couldn't answer as to what they are.
The question is if someone comes forward later and says, wait, something happened.
I get that. Yeah.
I can attest, Dave. I've seen a few in my time, and most of them are only 30 days, or some are even 2 weeks. It's just because of the space that requires to hold it. So, I mean, it's usually standard, either 2 weeks or 30 days. So,
Okay, thanks.
I don't think me personally, I don't think you need to specify in that a time frame, but I was just joking on the 900 days because you always want more than less. So,
But your viewpoint is understood, Jim. The landscape surety in number 17, that's fine with everybody? Is there a landscape surety? I thought,
I just need to, we're struggling to get Judy her thing.
While you're struggling, we had discussed that, which is why there's some highlighted yellow and blue. At least I think it's blue type. It is on mine. This is really just in the event that we want the certificates of occupancy, but probably for seasonal reasons, if that happens, like we can occupy in the winter, then we can post the surety, so we can get our certificates of occupancy.
I think
So
you really, yeah, I think you had said that last time. So this is fine.
Yep.
Okay. Should I email Judy the version, Paul? Is that what you're?
No, there's an issue on my end, Tom.
Oh.
I can't send or receive. So Paul's been trying to communicate with me and my email's not cooperating. So we're going to try a different address if he can. And if he can't, I'm just following along as best I can.
Okay, this is recorded anyway. You could always look at the recording.
I know.
I
I'm
can share
sorry.
my screen if you want.
Hmm?
I can share my screen if you want.
No, screen share is a good deal.
Let me see how I can do that.
Screen share is great.
I haven't gone that far to figure that
Oh,
out.
it's awesome.
Yeah, I really should have been doing that.
I didn't even think about asking for that. That's so silly.
Oh, there we go. Whose computer is this, Paul? Is it-
Jim's.
No, it's
Good job.
Wow. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Page 14. Oh, you're there.
Just fucking kill me.
Your post occupancy is red and mine is blue, but that's probably just the way it's formatted.
I think it is. Yeah.
All right. I have just minor edits. Page 16 I'm looking at next. Stop me, anybody else, if you want to bring anything else in.
Oh, the reserve parking, right?
Yep, the parking. I was going to clarify, I think this helps the applicant. Everybody's gone quiet on me. I'm not sure. You're all still here, right? You hear me?
Oh, we're all here.
Okay.
Tom, what page are you on?
I'm on page 16.
16. Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, right, what Jim is showing.
Yeah, I'm just making some changes as we go on my version.
Installation of one or more of the 18 reserved spaces in the spaces shown on the plan shall not require further approval from the board. That's what we want to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to be more explicit there. Paul has a note suggesting a trigger or standards. Paul, what were you?
Yeah, we just wanted to figure out when would be that time that the applicant might need to, or determine that they would need those additional spaces, whether it's all 18 or some amount. So I think, Peter, you and I had worked on this, I believe.
Yeah, the language, not your comment on the side, but the language that's there is what we had seen.
Yeah.
That we agreed on it, including, of course, my client.
Yeah.
Because, I think the way it came out this way is that, and I hope I'm not stating it backwards, that you folks actually wanted, the reduction in the spaces. So if we feel we need the more spaces, we would come ask when we do those assessments.
Right. That was it. And my note was just an explanatory. We felt like we needed to make sure we had something in here that would trigger, for you to do it.
I mean, what it says actually just, it actually says which is what Tom just said, the above 18 spaces would be an amendment.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you folks have any concern, it's, well, what happens if we want to use them? We do an assessment, we say we need more and we want to use them. Do we have carte blanche to just use as many of the 18 that we want? Seems to me as though, it's susceptible of that interpretation. I don't know how much more refined you want to get.
I thought that was the potential agreement. I thought that within that 18 pocket, and that's why I wrote in an extra sentence, installation of one or more of the 18 reserve in the spaces that are shown on the current spaces shown in the plan shall not require further approval from the board.
Exactly, like you said, that's helpful to us because that's the.
We want it, the town,
Okay.
the town will want to know, the town will need to know that
Right.
you're doing it. But
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. That clarifies what the intent was. I agree.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, Paul, you're in agreement. And then the last line makes more sense. Any additional parking, whatever, above those 18 currently reserved spaces would require an amendment to the comprehensive permit, just to clarify.
Yep.
Okay.
No, that's good. Good drafting.
Okay. So, and then the next paragraph comes out. That's out. Construction and bonding. Okay. I am jumping ahead in my my notes. Numbered page 20. Sorry, the formatting fell apart, at least on this version. Yeah, numbered page 20. It looks like there are things in columns, but the columns got merged or unmerged or something. I cannot read 5 earth removal. I can read the signage requested and required. But you see physically on the sheet.
Oh, yeah, that formatting did get messed up on that one.
Yeah, this is a Microsoft special. I threw my hands up and wanted to really say bad things about Bill Gates about this, but I had to move on.
Yes, I had an interview with him and wanted to call for that purpose.
I heard that on just before the meeting started. I heard that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was on a different topic. It wasn't on this project. Sorry.
Oh, well, I plan on doing a final scrubbing of it, but at this point,
I can't even read it,
Microsoft has
though.
just always been horrible with formatting, and I was like, I've got to move this on. I can't figure it out.
Peter,
But I think once I get it off of, where you can see the actual changes, I'll get it.
okay, so Peter or Paul, could you possibly type this up and PDF it so that it's not messed up when it goes, your machine to mine or something? I can't read earth removal. Can you put the sentence together to me, Peter? And maybe an earlier version, it wasn't messed up. Tell me if that's the case, but.
If I go to my Word version, which hopefully I can do quickly on my computer here, which I can't, have the wrong computer. Basically, it's making the distinction between special permit provisions, which this is a special permit provision, and you don't need a waiver, but there may be a certain amount that we're doing, that's not for the purposes of, what's necessary for the project. It's not mining. It's not doing earth removal for the sake of earth removal. So that's essentially what it's getting at. But yeah, it's all jumbled the way it came out.
Well, look, we can both look to your earlier version. Maybe it's not jumbled in that. If you can, just as a quick note tomorrow morning, if there's any way you can send that or PDF this page or something, I just want to see what it says.
Absolutely.
Maybe these 2 pages, 20 and 21, I guess.
His original version, which is in Dropbox, should be correct. I have the right formatting, but
If it is, then that's fine. I'll look at that. I just wanted, I trust what Peter's saying now. And so I couldn't read 5 at all. 6, I think I can read, make out. I have arrows on the page. But 7, on page 20, is that 16.6 feet or is that 16 feet 6 inches? Page 27, landscaping. Go down a little more if you can. Yeah, right there.
This is the very first one, though. I went back to the very first one, so.
And it's still messed up.
It still looks the same.
Okay.
Well,
Well, see, well, we'll get that straightened out. And, you know, assuming the language is fine for now. But number 7, is
Hold on.
that supposed to be 16.6 feet or is it 16 feet 6 inches?
Hold on 1 second. Down.
Landscape buffer.
Right there.
There you go.
Yeah, that's, yeah, it's 16.6 feet.
0.6 feet? Okay. And then a few.
That's what, this is where the columns getting messed up, hurts, because I think what that's supposed to be is what's required is the 16.6, and based on the formula in the bylaw for the calculation, which is, if it's formatted correctly, which it still may not be, is broken down in what's supposed to be the words in the right column.
Okay.
So that what it winds up is that, you know, we actually are going down to 5 feet. So the width of the waiver compared to the 16.6 or 7 is 11.6.
Okay, and that's 0.6 of a foot. It's not 16 feet 6 inches. Okay. What is in the middle of that paragraph, front setback /3 equals 50 over 3? Is that a typo or is that a format?
No, that's the formula in your bylaw for the buffer, the landscaping buffer.
I didn't know that. Okay. So that's right as is. That's correct. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's adjust these columns pages, you know, these 2 or 3 pages, and just so we can have them straightened out. And then the very next page, 21. I just questioned spacing of trees. Waiver to allow spacing of trees as described above. What do you mean described above? Described above as required?
40, they're really changing it to 40 feet, right, Peter?
I'm sorry, which section is that on that page?
Trees,
Right up here.
30-foot gap between trees required.
Yeah, again, it's the spacing, because where it says required on the left column, the start of this should have been on the left, because the requirement is that there are, gaps. I assume it means of no more than 30 feet. And we're saying that we have some trees that are spaced, about 40 feet. So that would require a waiver. But we're not reducing the number of trees. It's just how it's spaced.
But the last line, what does that refer to? Waiver to allow spacing. Oh, as described above.
Yeah, that's the formatting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll fix that. I'll fix it.
Okay.
There's a hold if you put them in a table.
That's true.
They won't scoot around like this.
Yeah, that's true. A table is good, right? Two column table.
How I do it.
Okay. Thanks. It was my difficulty in reading all those things that was playing with me. All right. Those are the notes that we talked about already. That was it then, and we're taking out on the last page water and sewer connection fees. We're taking that out.
Yeah.
Okay, those were the questions or issues that I had. I can make my edits to this, in the next day or two, and push it out to Peter and the members and Paul, of course. Is that okay?
Mr. Chairman, Judy, do you want to, while I have my screen shared, do you want to see anything that we talked about prior to me sharing it?
No, I'm okay. I mean, I was following along and I didn't hear anything that alarmed me. I've been with this long enough that I kind of knew if something came up, I would holler, but I'm fine. But thank you for asking.
Can I stop sharing? I mean, unless you guys want to see it, or...
I think I'm fine.
I'm all set.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim, so much.
Yeah, Jim, thanks. That was good. You are technological.
I wouldn't say that.
Those were the issues that I had to go over from the decision as written, as printed up, and I can make those changes. So now, what are we comfortable doing, board? Are you comfortable taking a vote tonight to approve the decision as discussed tonight and to be edited as indicated in this meeting? And then we have a period of time to type up the final. and get it signed. Are you comfortable making a decision now, Jim and David?
Do we have to open it up before we do that to the public or no?
I'm going to. I'm certainly going to. The public hasn't been very active in observing what's going on here, but I will do that. I'm just asking, procedurally what we do next. I think Peter is urging us to do that, Peter. Is that correct?
Yes, the way you phrased it just now would be fine.
I think we've gotten through the substantive stuff. It's down to a few drafting changes and suggested edits. And, I'm going to do that, and Paul can do that from his end too, and bring it together into a document in the next couple of days. But the vote would stand, and then if we all agree this is what we decided tonight, us, the board, and the applicant, then all we would have to do is get that final version and all sign it. I think I see here that we're all supposed to sign it, or the three voting members. Correct, Judy?
Boards do it different ways. It's usually the three voting members. I've seen some boards simply vote to authorize the chair to sign on the board's behalf. I don't like that, but I've seen some boards do it.
I prefer we've done before. We've had the voting members sign off. Just
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. As Judy said, if only the chairman signs, there should be an official vote to that effect. But the three of you, it's probably fine to have you all sign.
We all live in the same town. We can get together. Wear your mask when you come sign. But so at this point, Paul, is there any other issue from your viewpoint?
No, there's one point I want to make, and I think Judy or Peter, but I think once we get the decision signed and stamped by the clerk, I send it up to Department of Housing and Community Development, and they count that toward our 10%.
It's from the day that you filed with the town clerk.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I believe this puts us over 10%.
We're going to have a COVID 10% party, COVID compliant 10% party if it doesn't. But we're going to have to invite Peter, since he's the one who's single-handedly done this for in the town for the last 5-10 years. Great.
I'll bring the champagne.
What's that?
If it's a Zoom meeting, I'll bring the champagne.
Yeah, that's right. The old restriction that we couldn't bring alcohol at a town hall doesn't apply anymore.
That's right.
Not a town hall. This is great. So at this point, then, Peter, I assume we've exhausted the issues from your point of view. I will ask if there's anybody in attendance, and we've asked this at a couple of the earlier meetings, though probably not all. Is there anybody in attendance who wishes to add anything or ask any questions of the applicant through Peter Freeman, their counsel, or the zoning board? I see a number of people in attendance, a couple people that I can't identify, but we are giving out the verbal cue and waiting a few seconds. Paul, you agree? You don't see anybody trying to join in, and you're not getting a phone call or an email, correct?
No, and no one on chat, so.
Okay, thank you for confirming that, just for this weird video record we have. Then I believe the next step, Judy, tell me if I'm wrong, we take a vote on whether to close the public hearing, at which point the board can talk, but we are not supposed to be asking questions of the applicant.
Right. The evidence hearing process is over.
Yep, the evidence gathering process is over. So board members, is there anything else before we do that we have to clarify with the applicant, other than these final edits, which don't fall under that rubric? I think I'm set.
I'm comfortable.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
comfortable.
Then, barring anything else, is there a motion from a board member to close the public hearing for this 40B comprehensive permit, 195 Mansfield Ave? And then we can talk about it further and discuss it and engage in some draftsmanship, but that's all.
Do you, or do you want me to?
I'm not sure if you can hear me that well, but I'll make the motion to close the public meeting.
Is there a second to closing the public hearing?
Turnover second.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? I assume not. Okay, at 8:38, Mr. Wren, how do you vote to close the public hearing on this matter?
Oh, yes, Mr. Chairman,
That was a yes?
that is a yes.
It was a muffled yes, but a yes. Mr. Tenori, how do you vote on that motion?
Yes.
And for the record, Mr. Noel votes yes as well. Public hearing on this matter is closed. I'm not sure there's anything else to review, except to say, to reiterate that Paul and I will, and Judy will make these changes that we were discussing. And let's, for this phase, keep everybody in the loop as we send, well, I might send something to Paul first, but other than that, sending to Paul, I'll include the board members and Judy and Peter Freeman. I assume, Peter, that's sufficient for your team?
That's yes, that's certainly fine. If I
To
hit
hit
my
you, to hit you alone.
yeah. The only other thing is a couple of minutes ago you said, and you said that of course I had requested, which is true, that you would you would ask if the board would move to vote to approve the decision as drafted, subject to these minor tweaks that you will make subsequently.
I understand. Yeah, I haven't forgotten you.
Thank you.
So to the board members, next question. Thank you for prompting, Peter. Are you comfortable taking a vote on the decision tonight? Let me ask Judy if I can, Jim and David. Before Judy, is it appropriate at this point for us to take a vote on the decision, reserving final drafting, final edits and drafting?
Oh, certainly, yes. I mean, often you've done really, you're like the poster child for me of how this should be done, but it's not uncommon at all for a board to close the hearing, deliberate, vote, subject, and then have 40 days to actually finish crafting the decision. So, this is fine. It's absolutely fine. If you're prepared to vote, you should go ahead and do it.
Okay, we like, as we said at the outset of the process, we like getting the decision almost final form because that's the only way we know if there are issues. For example, the water and sewer thing that just came up, 4 or 6 weeks ago, and it's good that we had it's good that we had the paper in front of us because it caused us all to sort of say, wait, what about this? But at this point, there's no reason to delay that vote.
That's right.
Thank you, Judy. Members, are you comfortable taking a vote at this time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me just ask. Wait, David.
If you don't mind, I have a quick question. On page 2 and 3, there's certain votes that have to be taken.
That's what I was just going to get to ask. I'm going to ask Peter procedurally. We're not taking evidence or testimony here, but procedurally, Peter and Judy, are we supposed to take individual votes? It's written in this fashion.
I'm going to share my screen again.
Sorry, Jim?
Yeah, yes. What I think that I followed the format that had been done on other Norton decisions. So yes, they're broken down into 3 votes, but I think it's totally sufficient if you combine those 3 votes, which is simply to vote the approval of the findings that are drafted, and then the jurisdictional section as to eligibility to apply, and then the conditions. If you just combine those into one motion, that's sufficient.
Absolutely.
There are 4 votes here I see on pages 2 and 3, but that's fine.
The waivers, it must be the waivers is the 4th, yes. So but you can combine it into one motion.
You can do, yeah.
And Judy, you're in agreement that
Oh, yes, I am.
kosher. Okay. Then subject to the final drafting reviews, is there a motion from the board? You could take the document down, Jim.
Okay.
Is there a motion from the board concerning approval of the comprehensive permit decision that we have been considering, the hearing for which is now closed, including 4 specific votes on pages 2 and 3, and just for the record, on such and such a date, board voted to find that the applicant is a limited dividend organization under 760 CMR for a limited dividend organization. I think that's could be scratched out the second time. there's a drafting note right there. The second vote on such and such a date, the board voted to find that the PEL, project eligibility letter, satisfies the requirement under 760 CMR that the project be fundable by a subsidizing agency. The third one, on this date, the board voted to find that the applicant controls the site as required under the regulations. And the fourth, on this date, the board voted to find subject to the reservations and express conditions set forth above, and that's the magic language, I would say set forth herein. The board finds that the applicant satisfies the jurisdictional requirements under the regulations. Those four votes are up for a motion. You can do them all at once unless any member feels there's a reason to break them up. But voting on this in the affirmative would in effect approve the project and prompt us to get into the final drafting exercise that we just discussed and get it done as quickly as possible, certainly within the next handful of days for our signature. So board members, we can discuss this. Mr. Freeman, did you have
Just a quick question? I'm afraid I closed down my screen. I think the four that you read, although they're correct, but I think those are just within the jurisdictional section. So the votes that were in all of those pages were the votes on the jurisdiction, the findings, the conditions, and the waivers. So it's really all of those items that should be listed in a motion.
You're correct. Thank you. Sorry about that. On page 6, there is another voted block. Board voted to make the above stated findings of fact. I see. Thank you, Peter, for pointing that out. Just to be legal. And is there one after the conditions as well?
Yeah.
Just for the record, I don't see a separate block on the conditions. The
I think
final,
it might have been at the start of the condition section, but there is one.
no, I don't see one within the conditions. We can certainly add a block within the conditions at the end, similar to the last one, that the above conditions are hereby voted and approved. The signature lines follow the conditions anyway, so and the waivers. So we can add a signature block there as the extra vote on the conditions. But the same suggestion as before. Is there a motion for approval of this comprehensive permit, or would you rather break them down in individual votes? Is there any reason to? Mr. Tenori, Mr. Wren?
I see no reason to break it down.
I'll interpret that to mean I think I'm comfortable voting for the whole thing. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Okay.
I am in agreement as well.
Yeah, and I am as well. So is there a motion for a affirmative vote on the comprehensive permit for 195 Mansfield Ave with the individual sub votes as we've just outlined, subject to the further drafting only and agreement on a final draft? Is there a motion to grant the comprehensive permit as has been discussed, as on the plans, and as recorded in these meetings?
So moved.
That's a cowardly motion, but okay.
I was waiting for Dave, and I didn't write all your words down, so.
That's fine. We can get them from the record. Mr. Wren?
I vote yes.
No, is there a second on the motion?
Oh, sorry, second on the motion.
Okay. And now I don't know that any further discussion is necessary. This is all very formalistic, but it's Robert's rules. I don't know. Is there any further discussion necessary, Mr. Wren or Mr. Tenori?
Nope.
I don't believe so either. Then I will ask for a vote, roll call vote. Mr. Wren, how do you vote on the motion?
Oh, yes.
Thank you for the hand signal. Mr. Tenori, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Mr. Noel votes yes as well. Judy, is that it for now? We are complete.
Well done.
Let's
Well
get
done.
moved on. Let's get moving on the final the edits, which I can pay attention to and will do within the next day or two. Get it back to Paul and Peter, and and Peter can distribute to the team, and I'll also include the board members on, this final draft too. If you can take some time and look at your notes and see that we got it all right, that'd be helpful. Okay.
Very good. Appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Freeman, thank you for your cooperation. Thank you,
Thank you.
to your client as well and your team participating in all these questions and these meetings.
Hey, Tom, from one Greek to another, say Sasanifisto. Thank you.
I didn't intend that with you sitting there. I forgot your last name. Then I remembered it after I said that. It's often an expression I use. My mother from New Hampshire is Casavisti.
Yeah, well, that's Greek. Yeah,
but I don't have that name. I've got the
that's okay.
French.
Against you.
There was no bias in my vote.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it.
No bias in my vote. For the
Right, that's good.
Oh, go.
All right.
Thank you to Mr. Freeman and your team, and we'll get this finalized and moving as soon as we can, because there's benefit to the town in doing so, as Judy noted just a few minutes ago. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Now, before I hit the sign-off button, we do have a couple more business items. I won't hit the sign-off button prematurely this time.
Do you need me for anything else, Mr. Chair?
No, Judy, thank you very much. But you'll be involved in the final drafting to review. Hopefully we can get your email working so you can take a look at this.
While it happens, I actually think it may be something going on with the Wi-Fi in my office.
Well, the internet had a problem on the East Coast Monday anyway. And I noticed a slowdown Monday. Now, my internet never went out, but you got to think if a chunk of internet in the Northeast and the Eastern Coast was out, things have to bounce around differently. I noticed Monday morning when I came in that things were freezing up. So maybe it's still happening out there. I don't know.
Verizon had a big break. They had a cut line, they think, somewhere in New York.
But it affected more than just that area.
Yes, it did.
There was a widespread reduction in total volume. And I certainly saw it Monday. I mean, before I knew something was going on, I noticed something. So
it's mail, it's shipping, it's Wi-Fi. It's like nothing's working right now. It's really wild.
Everything has COVID except for us.
Okay, so if you don't need me, I'm going to sign off because I'm going to go home. But I'll stay if you want me to.
No, we're set.
Okay.
You'll be in the loop though in the next couple of days. So
great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, take care. Have a good evening, guys.
Bye.
Hey, Paul, I saw something in the chat from that Sandra. It said Paul. I don't know what that means.
There was chat. Nothing. I didn't get it.
Okay.
I see there was a 1 on my chat box.
Yeah, it went away.
Can you tell me?
It was
Ms. Copley?
Yes. Hi, this is Sandra. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I am the listing and selling agent on this property, and I was just wondering if you would explain to me so I can explain to the seller what the timing is going forward so that we can make some timing on them purchasing a new home. Is there an appeal period?
I can't. There is. After our decision. Gee, it's too bad Judy just hung up. She would know more than maybe Paul knows more than I do. There is a 20-day appeal period, as there is for any decision. Yes, Paul.
Yeah, it would be 20 days from when the town clerk stamps it.
Okay.
So we have to get a final document agreed to, and then three of us has to sign it, and then Paul or Nicole will get it stamped by the town clerk that day or the next day, and that's when the appeal period runs, Paul?
Yeah, it starts the day the clerk stamps it. So then usually that day or the next day we mail out the decision, of course, to the applicant, but also then we mail a notice of the decision to the abutters. So people within 300 feet will know of it. So they'll have a chance. We'll post the decision up online so people can look at it and see. And
so, Ms. Copley, if you want to be in touch with Paul or the office or me by email, you can check in with us, or we can tell you when the thing gets signed. If you want to give us an email asking for that.
Okay, sure, that would be great. So you folks have 40 days to get it signed and get it to the clerk, but it could be sooner?
Yeah, and I anticipate it would be a lot sooner. Maybe
Okay.
in a week, maybe next week sometime. I mean, I can do my changes in the next couple of days. Maybe I'd be delayed to the weekend.
Okay.
And, you know, the applicant and we were in agreement on most anything, so almost everything. Paul, if you-
Okay, and I can get your emails from calling City Hall?
Yeah, it's also on the note. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, you can, Sandra, you can go to, if you just go to the ZBA, if you just Google Town of Norton Zoning Board of Appeals,
Mhm.
you'll find my email on there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
So, and I'm on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Good luck.
All right, take care.
I didn't see a chat though, Jim.
It was weird. All of a sudden, it on the bottom where it says mute and stop video, there's a chat thing, and all of a sudden it came up with a 1.
Yeah.
Clicked on it, and that's usually. And then I saw Paul, and I saw trying to get in touch with Paul.
Oh, it says I see from Sandra to everyone.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I was trying to
Get our
send
attention.
an email out to Paul, and it doesn't work like email. When you hit enter, it doesn't go to the next line. It sends the email. So I started retyping, and Jim, you popped in with what's going on here, and we've straightened it out.
Okay. I
Very
mean,
good.
if you want to type your email there, I don't know if you want to do that publicly. You know, the public might be seeing this.
Don't put an email in chat because that becomes part of the public record.
Okay.
So just email me again, as we talked about earlier.
Will do.
Thank you. Okay. Couple of business items. Paul, do we have anything aside from minutes?
No, just the minutes that you worked up.
Okay, no bills and warrants. I emailed 2 sets of minutes out.
Before we get to that,
Yeah.
weren't we supposed to get an update from the other 40B?
Paul, go ahead.
That's next. That's February.
The February meeting is, and what date is that, Paul?
The 17th, I believe.
Okay.
Let me confirm.
Well,
I have a phone here that can do that.
we have it in the minutes too, so.
Yeah. No, it was my bad.
17.
Right.
And they're doing a relaunch.
They're going ahead with the 40B as far as we understand, right, Paul?
But you're also going to have a variance application to repair a sign at 253 Mansfield. So,
To repair a sign at the same location?
what was explained to me was, I guess a drunk driver ran into the sign and knocked it down, and I guess the sign itself they're rebuilding back to what it was, but apparently it was a non-conforming.
Oh.
So, we'll have them on the same agenda. So,
But the news is that they're going ahead with the 40B. And Paul actually suggested in an email to me, and I thought it was a good suggestion, Paul. I think we should make clear to them that this is far out of our heads at this point, and that they should start at the beginning and present to us again, at least briefly, what it is they have in mind. Is that okay, Jim and David?
it was July. It was your July meeting when they presented. Months.
We have the materials we have, but I'd like an overview again for at least the start of the meeting. And I don't know that we got anywhere with the process either, Paul.
Well, remember, at that time, they hadn't signed on for a peer review. They have. So they've given us a check. We actually now have the peer review for the engineering and for traffic. I'll get those out to you all tomorrow. But those have been sent to the applicant. Let me just make a note.
Well, what do you mean sent to the applicant? I mean, we have to pick peer review and all, don't we?
No, you did.
We did?
Yeah. It's Amory. It's the same folks. It's the same team that reviewed 195.
Okay.
But they didn't, they did not at the time, they didn't issue us a check, so you didn't get a peer review. And so, we'll work it so that Pat Brennan and from Amory and John Gillen from Gillen and Associates, they'll do the same presentation on their findings. Although in this case, the applicant, there may be some back and forth between their team and the peer reviewers.
Well, our numbers also have changed now, correct? Well, providing that gets signed off on.
That's a good point. I mean, if we sign this decision, say, Tuesday, does that change our position with?
Keep in mind, they had an application in prior to us hitting the 10%. So if that's your question.
Yeah.
Then you still have to accept them because it was based on when they came in, when they submitted the application. So,
but does that change if we sign this decision?
My understanding and talking with either Judy or Amy was no.
I'd like clarification because they'd asked for, it was them asking for a continuance, not us.
Well, I can run through that, but I think my recollection was that no, once they get the application in and you weren't at 10% there, we're bound by that.
It's worth asking because remember there's something called safe harbor.
Yeah.
If we're at 10%, we still have to consider an application, but I think we're not required to do it with any restrictions on us or something like that. I think it's worth getting some clarification from Amy.
Yeah. Okay.
But we haven't wrapped up this 195 yet, but we're about to. So good question, Jim. Good issue. Okay. And have they changed their plans at all, Paul? The physical plans? You don't know.
No, nothing has been submitted.
Okay.
No new change. No changes. Not yet, anyway.
Okay.
But if we do, we'll get it to you.
Okay, so that's where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a chance to look at the minutes, or can you look at them now? I'm starting with November 18, 2020. Nicole's not with us tonight, right?
No, not tonight.
Okay. I edited what Nicole had done, and I would entertain a motion for approval if it's warranted on the minutes of November 18.
That is a pretty detailed. Good job. I'll make a motion to approve the November 18 minutes.
Second that.
There's a muffled second. Without further discussion, Mr. Wren, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Tenore?
Vote yes.
And Mr. Noel votes yes as well. Okay, thank you. I'll get them signed and into Town Hall. Is Town Hall open yet, Paul?
We'll know tomorrow what the situation is, but but at this point, we're not to be going in, although I'll be in the office tomorrow. But
okay, so I should still drop things off though at the box there. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. There are people there. There's people working there, but we're really minimizing staff. Unfortunately, it's easy for me to work from home.
Okay.
And very enjoyable. Just think, I don't have to drive home after this meeting. Yeah. I just walk downstairs.
That's right. The vaccine is here, so better days are ahead, and summer fall's gonna be looking good. It's gonna be back to normal soon. So hang in there and wash your hands and stay safe and be vigilant. And summer and fall's gonna be back to normal. It's gonna be back to normal soon, and this pandemic's gonna be over soon.
I've got my mask here, but it's not required for video conferences, right? I had to get used to that. I had somebody appear at a court hearing back early on in the early summer. He had a mask on, and I said, why do you have a mask on? And he turned the camera because he had his assistant sitting right next to him that I couldn't see.
Yeah.
In his office, but that's the nice thing about video. You don't have to wear the mask.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I also distributed minutes of December 14, 2020. If you are able or were able to review them, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes for submission.
I'll make that motion to approve those December minutes.
Seconded.
Mr. Tenori, roll call vote. How do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Wren, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, good. We got two out of the way now. I think we're just behind in our January minutes, which I don't think I have yet, but I can ask Nicole. I think we're up to date now for 2020.
Yeah, that would be it.
So we had one meeting in October, one in November, one in December. Okay, good. Is there anything else to come before us tonight, Paul?
No, that is it.
Members?
I got one question. Cumberland Farms up on Westman Street.
Okay.
Well, we approved the decision for the signage.
Yes.
Well,
and the planning board denied them to build, correct?
Yeah, they 6 months ago, but they are back.
Now they approved it. Do they have to come before us again for that same signage, or does our variance that we approved on the last application apply?
That's a great question. So, the board has actually asked for them to reduce from what you had approved. So no, they would be less than by about 10 square feet, I think. But
so, I'm sorry, are you talking, this is the Cumberland Farms on 123, that's not there yet.
right.
Correct.
So last week, the board voted to approve the project, but there was one special permit they held off on, and that was for the sign for the electronic message center. So back in 2019, you all approved the variance for signs. So, but the board asked, and so we're going. That's going to the planning board on Tuesday. With really the remaining vote is on the sign. In fact, the applicant just gave me this afternoon a revised sign that goes from, I think you had approved it at 14 feet. It's down to 12 feet. They reduced it back down to 12 feet. So,
okay.
So they'll vote. They have a couple votes remaining, but the major vote was approval on the special permit for the gas station. So they just have to vote on the special permit for the electronic message center.
Jim, have you heard about this through other avenues? Is that why you're asking?
Well, I've been kind of following it through different channels.
Okay.
And then I said, well, if they got approved again, that means their sign's going to come up before us. And then I heard some stuff about the sign. And
I didn't know it had changed. Paul, what was the pushback on the sign specifically? I'm just wondering how that came up.
So the request from the board was that since this is a village center and we're trying to become more pedestrian oriented, they thought that the sign was too big at a pedestrian scale. So Cumberland Farms had a few other examples around the area where the signs were smaller, so they just submitted plans similar to what they did in I can't remember which town now, but so that's why it was to try to start moving toward a more pedestrian oriented area.
What changed, if you can summarize? It's maybe an unfair question, but why was it denied 6 months ago and now it's approved? Did they change the plans, or?
There were a couple of changes to it. They added a lot more landscaping to buffer the yell. there was also, questions, that town council was involved with regarding the role that they had on a couple of the reasons, such as relating to health.
Oh,
Because tanks are regulated by the state.
Yeah.
Not in this town's regulations to authority to regulate those.
Okay.
So they've made a few other conditions, added a couple other conditions, that they're going to discuss, so that they will finalize on Tuesday. So there are public amenities that are being added to address some of the concerns, but they were health concerns and then traffic concerns, with the L. So
I guess so. It was deemed that it was rejected 6 months ago, though. They must have negotiated at that time and then just decided, oh, well, let's go back again now. I mean,
well, it was remanded back by the court.
No, I didn't understand that.
But we had agreed to the remand, so it was a joint motion to remand it back. But
I haven't kept up with that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
There were some changes to the plan and the discussion over the role of the board in having made some of those decisions.
Okay. Well, thanks for bringing it up.
Sorry to bring you down that rabbit hole.
Not at all. It's interesting. I assume the signed permit would still be okay, but not if they're changing the plans, obviously. So good. Another issue that there's been communication about between Paul and Amy and me. I don't know if the other members have been involved, but remember Mr. Bankert, the parking issue, the old Norton mini golf.
Yep, not mini golf.
He went to court, and speaking of remand, I don't know the exact course. Amy explained it in an email that I only read very briefly, but the court thought he should have some further say before the ZBA. So the court allowed him to come back to the ZBA, Paul. Essentially his appeal prevailed.
Well, it was a remand back to the ZBA, but he disputes whether he even needed to file it. And town council has said, yes, you do need to file. And
the court said something like, you can go back to the ZBA and present something further, and you have X amount of time, or the ZBA will have X amount of time to act on it or something like that. But he didn't file another application. He just took that to mean we were supposed to take it up. And,
right.
And Amy's saying that's not at all what the court said. The court said you can go back to them and in essence reapply, I guess. And he's right. Not done that, and then he's, I guess, refusing. Amy is suggesting that he do that, and he's just not. So right. That might come up on an agenda, but it will come up. But then, if the hearing isn't properly noticed, we'd have to consider it under those
right
grounds. I'm just previewing that Mr. Baker might be on the agenda again in the next couple of meetings. The property's been sold.
Oh, sold? I'm not sure.
Well, it's been purposed for something else.
It's been repurposed. That's actually one of the 2 locations for marijuana retail. That's for the Solar Norton site. And that's going forward. That's Solar Norton actually just got a preliminary, basically a completeness review from the Cannabis Control Commission. Now they're just waiting for their initial determination to go forward. Once they get an approval, they'll be submitting a site plan and special permit to the planning board. So, it's all systems go with that, unless the Cannabis Control Commission denies it. But we're gearing up for special permanent site plan there. There's already been a host community agreement issued for that.
It takes a long time though to get through the CCC. A long time. I mean, it could be months or a year or more. I don't know the state of their application, but Interesting.
Yeah. So they're working, they're working to get their plans drawn up and, when I told them we would work with them in advance on any project. So that way, the town's had a chance to review it before, the town staff has had a chance to review it before it goes to the planning board. Our goal with any project is always to get them in, the best shape we can. So just like with the 40Bs, we had a few meetings with both applicants before you saw it.
Yep.
So, fire, building, conservation, they all have a chance to weigh in on it. So, anyway, Amy will continue to advise us on Mr. Bankert's appeal.
Okay. Anything else then tonight? Hopefully not.
I was just wondering, Paul, if you can hear me, where's
Yeah.
the other dispensary going?
Well, it was approved. The other marijuana retail was at Blue Star Business Park. That's where when they came in for their host community agreement, it still could go there. There's been some challenges now with that site that could be worked through. We just need to hear some updates from the applicant there. So it's a little bit behind the site at 242, which is fine. It's okay if we don't get them both at the same time.
Interesting.
Forgive me, but where's the Blue Star Business Park?
Oh,
Yep, it's on 100th Street. 100th Street.
195.
It's 123 in Mansfield and 123 and 495. The big industrial park.
Yeah. Oh, by Crystal. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever.
Wayfair is in. Pitney Bowes will be going in, and then they're actually there were 3 retail buildings, but now they've got a special permit in right now to eliminate one of the retail buildings and add more parking because of Pitney Bowes' transportation needs. So,
really,
yeah.
What will Pitney Bowes do there?
I'm not really clear what their operations will be there, but it's a pretty significant site. So
the state needs to review that roadway. I don't know who approved that turn lane, and that is screwing people all up. Sorry.
Well, that's all under construction now, right?
No, but when you come down heading towards Easton,
yeah,
you're in the right lane. It turns into the turn lane.
Yeah.
It's really, I've had a couple people come over
that was approved. That was approved as part of the site plan and special permit, that turn lane.
Terrible. Sorry, on record.
When the lights go in, that'll help fix some of those problems.
Yeah. That's still a bad intersection. Every Sunday morning I come back from grocery shopping and I have to get off the exit heading north on 495 and take a left down 123. And even on a Sunday morning, it can be treacherous.
Yeah.
But the light will fix that, of course. Not that I want more lights, but
well, we only have one in town, so well, we'll have 3 soon enough. So
all right. Yeah.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ooh, we got to fix that microphone. I have like 3 microphones. I'm going to send you one.
Actually, I have another one. I just didn't want to switch it out because then I have to get the video going again.
It's very strange. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a setting on your computer, but
yeah, I think it's the mic. It's a fairly new mic, and I thought it was working fine. Obviously, it's not. So.
Tap it. Tap the mic. It's dead. We're not hearing any tapping.
I'm guessing what's happening is the mic's not working.
And we're picking
it up on the laptop.
Yeah, maybe. Or even it's a laptop because it sounds more like it's something, like your desk, like your PC on your floor or something.
Now, but see, if my laptop I have it closed. So the speaker's inside.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm thinking is going on. The mic on the camera is not working, so it's using this one.
Open your laptop. Does that solve it?
Right.
Now now I can hear you tapping.
You hear me?
Yeah.
That's better. That is so weird.
So it's the microphone inside the laptop, I guess.
Well, the
Yeah, I
camera.
think what's happening is that the mic on the camera is not, it should be defaulting to the camera mic, but it's not
There are settings for that.
somewhere.
Yeah. But it's a lot better through the computer, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. That makes my wife would warn me because she got the same complaint.
Well, Jim is a technological marvel, so he's going to solve this for us before the next meeting.
Not even close. I have guys I go to for that.
Saw what he did with the sharing. Also, Dave, we see a square shot of your stomach and chest. Not that you're not attractive, but there you go. There you go.
I mean, I got wires all over the place here now.
I'm sorry.
All right, let's wrap this up. I'm going to bed.
Good. All those in favor. Good night.
Hey, everyone, hi, David, Paul, Tom, and Jim, and Shane, and Charlene.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Paul.
The recording has stopped.
Hi, everyone.